with both of these teams. So we've got our reporters on both sides, Lindsay Theory and Courtney Cronin. Courtney, we start with you. What is this Bears defense saying about slowing down that Rams offense and Matthew Stafford?
Well, Laura, the challenge here is the versatility that this Rams offense presents. They're the number one offense in the NFL. They do everything right, is what Kevin Byard said. And let's start with that run game. There's some similarities here that Byard drew from facing the 49ers run game a couple weeks ago, and even what the Bears do in their rushing attack. It's all of those misdirection runs that try to get your eyes as a defender out of the right place in somewhere where they shouldn't be, which allows those explosive gains. And then, of course, we know Puka Nacua is the target monster. They're expecting big volume to the Rams' number one receiver, as evident of the 18 targets that he had last week and the 11 catches, over 100 yards receiving. And he's a do-it-all type receiver. He had the rushing touchdown, he had the receiving touchdown. And with Davante Adams, Byard said, keep an eye on what happens inside the 5-yard line. If Matthew Stafford sees Davante Adams one-on-one and he knows he can get a good release, that ball is likely going there. But ultimately, the way that Matthew Stafford is playing right now is why the Rams are such a threat to this Bears defense. He led that game-winning drive there at the end of the game. Boom, boom, boom to Puka Nacua, Davante Adams, and then Colby Parkinson for the game-winning touchdown. Grady Jarrett said you have to earn the opportunity to pass rush in this game. Yes, he dropped back 42 times last week, but the ball gets out so quickly each of those times that if Matthew Stafford does end up holding onto the ball longer than 2 seconds, they know that they have to get home and capitalize on those opportunities.
Great stuff, Courtney. I mean, as you know, this Bears defense has been able to take the ball away, so maybe they try to force some mistakes, but a grizzled vet like Matthew Stafford doesn't make many. Let's talk about Stafford a little bit more with Lindsay here, because he is dealing with that finger injury. He's expected to play, but what do we know about the state of the finger and how it could affect things?
State of the finger, great way to put it. Matthew Stafford could not seem any less bothered by the state of his finger. Now, just to be clear, the Rams did not practice today. They are only holding a walkthrough. But Stafford did talk with reporters for about 7 minutes, and I spent an inordinate amount of time during that news conference watching how he used his right index finger. He adjusted his hat, he knocked on the podium, he talked like a normal person using his hands, and it seemed very unbothered. I asked him about it. He said, my finger feels great. Now, the one caution could be because it's supposed to be very cold in Chicago. It's 80 degrees here today in Southern California, but how could that cold, the frigid temperatures affect a sprained finger? Well, Matthew Stafford also says he doesn't really think it'll affect it even if the ball is rock hard. And just to check on the receiving end of that, I asked Davante Adams if he was able to tell on Saturday that Matthew Stafford was playing with a sprained finger. Adams said, no, I had no idea. So, Laura, that is the state of the finger. Matthew Stafford says there's really nothing to tell there.
I love it. You were on Finger Watch today. Great work, Lindsay. You just never know what this job might bring your way. We'll see you on all the coverage. All right, Dan, any concerns about Stafford's? Well, there was a delay. All right, any concerns about Stafford's finger? The forecast, I don't want to make too much of the weather, right, but it is supposed to be bitter cold. The high of 20 degrees is going to feel like a lot colder.
No, I have no concerns.
Zero concerns. Writing that down.
I'm so shocked that he has no concerns about Matthew Stafford. Hawk, how?
I don't.
Yeah.
Okay, well, actually me either, but.
Yeah, me either.
I have no concerns.
All right, cool. Then I'm done with you. All right, Hawk, how are Davante Adams and Puka Nacua going to help Stafford out on Sunday? They've been such reliable targets.
Yeah, in every way possible, the same way that they have all year. If you're the Chicago Bears, it's simple. Try to mitigate these two wide receivers, because it's not just that they're good wideouts. It's that they're like having two other quarterback minds on the field, the way they see the defense, the same way that Matthew Stafford does. You see Puka Nacua here, who has a big dig at 22 yards is where he's getting his depth. Look where he catches this ball, Dan. Yeah. From the 24-yard line to the 32 where his feet get down. That's 8 yards negative because he knows he has to give that angle for Matt Stafford. Next year, you're going to see pressure on Davante Adams. He knows the pressure's there. He also knows where the coverage is coming from and knows he has to have an exit strategy on this linebacker. Also, come through at a negative angle, avoid contact, turns into a 19-yard gain. You're going to see Davante Adams one more time, again, across the middle of the field here. He's going to expect this ball in a first window out of this break. That's how it's designed. Not open. Matt Stafford sees that. He sees that under coverage. And watch how he adjusts the second window and, again, turns into a 23-yard gain. Now, when you have receivers that aren't just running the lines on the field, they're also seeing the defense the way a quarterback does and say, okay, here's what's designed, but here's where the opportunity is. it's really hard to stop, and most times it's impossible because there's always something open.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting from Chicago's perspective of do they play zone or man. They played a ton of man in the second half last week versus Green Bay, and it really helped them. There were plays to be made. Now the pressure got home to Jordan Love. I want to ask you this. So one of the things that the Rams offensively have gone to out of 2 of your clips, it was the example of they take Parkinson, put him by himself, and then they've taken Devontae and Puka and put them together opposite him.
Yep.
And so from the receiver's perspective, because quarterback, we're always taught tight end by himself. I want you to look at the person who's covering him. If it's a defensive back, you're thinking it's zone. Like a corner, you're thinking it's zone. If it's a linebacker, if it's a safety, if it's Kevin Byard, you're thinking man. Do you think those receivers are doing the same thing of trying to get that information pre-snap, and then will it impact the way that they run their route post-snap?
Absolutely, because how you run man routes versus how you run zone routes are completely different, right? Man-to-man, it's obvious it's man-to-man, but I'm doing everything in my power to get to a point and separate away from defenders. When it's zone, it's different because now you're looking at timing and you're looking at where the hole in the defense is. So when you watch Puka on that dig route inside where he comes down 8 yards to a negative angle, which I can't overstate how impressive, but how rare that is. He understands that if he goes flat on that, that's a bang-bang play or a pass breakup. So I'm trying to get to this point in the field on a route that is not designed for me to get to that hole.
I also think those two are probably two of the better zone route runners in the league. You know, when it comes to just the understanding of when you're coming out of your break, peeking inside, is there a bad guy in there or not? Am I running through that window or am I settling in that window? So I think that's an element. Also, the no-look from Stafford in that stuff, of their awareness of,
you're holding people.
He's going to be moving those guys. So, like, you got to keep running to those windows even though it's zone, right?
And that's why there's 3 quarterbacks. Because, yes, you got to keep running. But even on the Devontae Adams, where the pressure comes and the coverage is coming from a cop-out, you notice his head is here the entire time because I can't let them know where I'm going. Stafford knows where I'm going to be. I know where I'm going to be. But the way he manipulates his eyes is the same way the receivers manipulate their eyes.
Man, it's fascinating because as good as Stafford would be, those guys really do make such a difference being on the same page with him. You see it all the time. It's massive. All right, back to our top stories today, beginning with the news of the day. We talked a lot about this earlier, but John Harbaugh meeting today with the New York Giants. This is Harbaugh's first in-person visit to a team's training facility. According to Adam Schefter and our Giants reporter Jordan Renan, Jordan was here earlier telling us that it's the Giants, the Titans, as well as, what was the other team he said? Oh, the Falcons, as the top 3 for Harbaugh. So we'll keep an eye on if anything happens. Couple injuries to watch in these playoff games. Patriots DB Christian Gonzalez, who is in concussion protocol, will practice today. According to Mike Vrabel, good news there for the Patriots as they prepare for their matchup against the Texans Sunday on ABC and ESPN. On the other side of that matchup, Texans wide receiver Nico Collins, also in concussion protocol. He did not practice today, and I can say from covering that game, watching this happen, he was in a world of pain, and I would be really surprised if we end up seeing him in this game. He left, of course, late in the third quarter, but we'll keep an eye on his status. Let's get back to our divisional weekend game. Seahawks and Niners facing off for the third time on Saturday night. A lot of familiarity there. Dan and Huck, what do we need to know about this one, the Niners offense specifically heading into the game?
Yeah, I think the best way to attack a great Seattle defense is in the pass game, you have to throw the ball over the middle of the field. I think you have to attack in between the hashes, and you got to throw over defenders. Now, good for San Francisco is it's one of their strengths from a schematic standpoint, and Brock Purdy's his ability to understand how to layer those balls. And I wanted to talk to Hawk about these routes that these receivers in San Francisco run, whether we call them wraps, whether we call them drifts, whether we call them bang eights, sometimes outside receiver, sometimes slot receiver. How it's different when you're playing against a 1 safety in the middle defense versus a 2 safety in the middle defense. So I'll go back to that first clip, okay? You're going to watch the bottom receiver, Demarcus Robinson. What are you calling this route that he runs?
So it varies. This is the drift route with the 49ers and Shanahan. It's a staple of his, really something he kind of introduced to the league. Not invented the route, but the way that he teaches it and how it fits into the concept. Now, there's a drift concept, which is play action, but there's also this route. So what's going to happen is a couple of things. Number one, you'll notice when the receiver's in a stance, you'll see his inside leg is up, which is uncommon in most offenses. You always go inside foot up, but the reason why, it is a very specific route that is rooted in timing.
Okay.
So
he's going off steps?
He's going off of steps. There's going to be 6 steps, and then on the 6th step, you're going hard outside. Now, the reason why it's important, you'll see a spray release to the bottom of the numbers. And out of this, there's a number of routes in Shanahan's system that this DB has to consider. Number one, all their deep outs go on that track. Number two, you've seen Robinson get there, push up, and run a comeback. You can see him take it to a go ball from here. You can also see him do a deep in from that angle. So now we're going to give that same route stem, and then at the sixth step, you're going to go hard outside to move a defender, and now you got to find your exit angle.
Now I want to ask you, so I want to live in the world where Philadelphia's playing one safety, right? Seattle plays a little bit more what we know is that shell defense. His angle, because I've been on offenses where you run this versus two safety defense or one safety defense. Does his angle at the top of that route, does it change depending on if there's a safety to his half of the field?
So I want you to watch Robinson from this point on. Now go back for me real quick. Watch when he cuts. Before we get to the next route, he's going to cut on one angle. Here is his angle he's cutting on. Now watch where he goes once he sees and understands what the defender is. You see how it straightens up?
Yeah.
Because this is the vacated part in the zone. So now, because I know it's single high, I still have to find my exit angle after the route.
So if there's a safety there, he'll flatten it a little bit more in front of that guy?
Check the next one.
Okay. The next one is going to be Jennings, I believe, right? He's
Jennings
in that slot. This time he's that slot receiver up top. Is it the same concept?
Same concept, same route, same stem. Inside foot up, 6 steps on the hard 6 outside. You're crossing over. Now watch where the safety is now, Dan, right in the middle. Now watch the angle that Jennings takes here.
Much
you
flatter.
See how it's much flatter?
Much flatter,
because that's where the hole is. And Brock Purdy has to see that. And that receiver has to understand what part of the zone they're trying to get to.
So that angle is going to be a little bit more this weekend when San Francisco tries to attack this part of that defense in Seattle. And there's that safety over the top. If we move this safety here, this angle is going to be a little bit more the representation for San Francisco. You got to come flat, almost like an in route.
There you go.
And then that Brock Purdy has to just trust that you're going to get to that spot with a little bit of that touch throw.
You're trying to get to the yak angle. Get to the spot where you can catch and run, and you see it was too big running after catching.
I think they're going to be huge. There's not a lot that you watch in Seattle's defense that you're like, let's attack them here. Let's do this. Let's do this. But I do think the best place to do it is that intermediate 15 or 20-yard passing window that's in the middle of the field, up over those backers before those safeties come crashing down.
Absolutely.
You guys know what could help? This new on NFL Live from 49ers reporter Nick Wagner. Ricky Pearsall practicing again today.
That could help.
Was limited, but if he can go, a much-needed boost for that Niners offense. They've been able to get by without him, but they could use him big time. Coming up here, Ravens owners